I hope you are now able to see how a healthy, biologically accurate gender identity is formed when we have healthy, loving relationships with our opposite gender parent when we are children. When our opposite gender parent loves us specifically for our gender differentness from them, it causes us to first accept, embrace, and love being our own gender with healthy gender esteem, so that we are then capable of loving an opposite gender counterpart. As clinical psychologist and LGBT expert Dr. Joseph Nicolosi explains, the father needs to encourage his daughter in developing her femininity. The proper role of the father in developing his daughter's feminine identity is to reflect his daughter's gender differentness from himself with respect and appreciation. At the same time, he provides love and positive regard so that the girl will feel worthy of another man's love. The major conflict at the root of lesbianism is the girl's unconscious rejection of her female gender identity. Women who become lesbians have usually decided, on an unconscious level, that being female is either undesirable or unsafe. Sometimes this is because the girl experienced early sexual molestation by a male. Other times, it is because her mother appeared to the girl as either a negative or a weak identification object. The identification object is the person that the child models his or her internal gender identity after. In healthy and functional families where both mother and father have healthy gender identities and both parents respect, love, and honor their opposite gender partner, children are basically guaranteed to choose the same gender parent as their identification object. However, for the homosexual, this biological and psychological process of gender identification is thwarted for a variety of reasons. I have discussed this in detail in other videos. In rejecting their mothers as identification objects, these women also reject the femininity their mothers represent. Positive identification with the mother is the basis for establishing a pleasurable sense of femininity and femaleness, and heterosexuality. As Dr. Siegel explains, from the beginning, my patients had received to varying degrees the message that it was unacceptable, even dangerous, to become like their mothers. The best way for a child to identify themselves with the same gender parent and develop a healthy, biologically accurate gender identity is for both biological parents to visibly embrace and love being their biological gender, and to visibly love, honor, and respect the opposite gender parent in front of the child. As a result of this healthy dynamic, parents will naturally love and cherish both their children of the opposite gender and their children of the same gender. This is how parents prevent their children from developing gender identity disorders, such as homosexuality and transgenderism. When a child witnesses a strong, loving relationship between their biological parents, where the father is clearly masculine, the mother is clearly feminine, and both visibly and deeply cherish, respect, honor, and love each other, the child internalizes that dynamic as the model for sexual orientation and gender identity. A little girl, seeing this, will admire her mother's femininity and her father's masculinity, and will naturally want to identify with her feminine mother and be loved and cherished by a masculine man, just as her mother is. This makes it basically impossible for her to develop lesbianism. In exactly the same way, a little boy will admire his mother's femininity and his father's masculinity, and will naturally want to identify with his masculine father and be loved by a feminine woman, just as his father is. This makes it basically impossible for him to develop homosexuality. A child needs to witness a healthy, affectionate, complementary gender relationship between their biological parents in order to develop a healthy, biologically accurate gender identity and healthy heterosexuality. And if lesbians were actually honest, self-aware, and not committed to total self-deception, they would be able to admit to themselves that if all the men in their lives had been honorable, masculine, good, protective, eugenic, handsome, and kind, that they would not have become lesbians. They would be able to admit to themselves that if their fathers had been good masculine men, who made them feel safe and who loved, valued, and cherished them specifically for being female and for their innate femininity, that they would not have become lesbians. They would be able to admit to themselves that if their own mothers had been good feminine mothers, who genuinely loved womanhood and femininity, that they would not have become lesbians. They would be able to admit that if they had had completely healthy childhoods with a good, loving father and mother who both had healthy gender identities, that they would not have become homosexual. We live in a world with very unhealthy relationships between opposite genders and a general lack of respect between opposite genders. So, if you have children or plan to have children, make sure you love and honor your husband or wife specifically for their gender differentness from you, and make sure you love and cherish your opposite gender children specifically for their gender differentness from you so that they can develop healthy heterosexuality based on healthy gender esteem and a biologically accurate gender identity. Well, that is all for this video. If you found this video informative, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video on social media and with your friends and family. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you all in the next video. Bye for now.